Hello and welcome to you all, wherever you're listening to this coaching cafe, either live or on your favorite streaming service. My name's Dr. Natalie Ashdown. Welcome to the Coaching Cafe. Today we're talking about performance conversations and starting the year with intention and focus. And as always, a welcome to the line, Paula Jones Hunt. Great to see you, Paula.
Hi everyone, lovely to be here.
And we have had the weather report just before we go live, and we're working out where everyone is dialing in from today. So, welcome to people from all around the world. We've got South Africa, down the road in Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Kuala Lumpur, Tokyo, Brisbane, all around the world. Where Tokyo is represented. We're all represented. So, it's Beijing is represented. So, it's wonderful to see you all. Before we begin, as always, let us acknowledge the traditional owners, the custodians on the lands in which we're all meeting today, either live or on your favourite streaming service, and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and communities of Australia, and the lands from all around the world where you might be joining us. We pay our respects to them, elders past, present, and emerging, and elders from Indigenous communities from all around the world. Well, we have a lot to discuss with you today. We are talking about performance conversations and the performance conversations season. And I'm sure I don't need to share with anyone on the line why these conversations are so important. All the great coaches, managers, and leaders on the line will already know this. But we are thinking also about coaching managers in our workplace. So, what we're sharing with you today might actually be useful to convince some of those people that need convincing around why we need to start the year with intention and focus on performance conversations. So, we'll share some data with you as always. And as always, we'll talk about taking a coaching approach to these conversations. If you are new to the Coaching Cafe, we say welcome to you. We are all about creating a community, sharing learned experiences, and having thought provoking conversations. We come together this time every Friday or on your favorite streaming service, and you can feel free to interact with us in the chat box. If you are a regular, you know we absolutely love spending this time with you. And we also love meeting you face to face, which I've had the opportunity to do this week as well. So shout out to those alumni that I've been able to catch up with this week as well. So feel free to interact with us in the chat box. And if you are here to collect your ICF CCEs, that's a very good idea to start collecting them as you go, and they will be available to you at the end of the Coaching Cafe once we finish the recording. Alrighty, let's get into it. So, why are performance conversations so important? And as you know, we like to be evidence informed and data informed in our research. So, we take a practical approach to everything in our experience, in your experience as well. But we also like to go back and look at the statistics. So, this is a Gallup report. I'm showing you can pick this up on the blog if you can't see it. And it's a Gallup report, it's very recent, and they're talking about why performance conversations are so important. And look at the numbers. Basically, only 23% of employees strongly agree that they have a clear definition of what exceptional performance looks like in their role. And when managers were asked, my performance is managed in a way that motivates me to do outstanding work, only 20% of managers agreed. So it's a big gap here that only 20% of managers actually think that their performance conversations motivate them to do outstanding work. Now, I know the skepticals on the line, and you need to be with me on this one as well. You could easily say, well, what's the definition of exceptional performance, and what's the definition of motivates me to do outstanding work? So please feel free to dig into the research and see those definitions. And yes, you might say, well, what about the people that think that there's a clear definition of what good looks like? So you can take a look at the research as well. But they're the headlines. You know, the performance conversations at the moment are not doing enough to actually inspire and motivate people to do great work. Gallup says that traditional performance management, the decades old, rigid, and frustrating review processes are not only antiquated, but they are ineffective. And this is based on research that they're seeing, global research that they do, and the link is there on the page as well. And they're encouraging, as we are always encouraging. And I think what this is I'm not sure, like our eighth year of doing performance, of doing these coaching cafes. Every year we review the data on performance management, and about this time of the year, we also do this webinar. So it's not changing, and our message hasn't changed as well. We need to move from the traditional and re-engineer performance conversations. And Gallup says that, and as we do, and I'm sure you all on the line would also be saying, managers need to move from thinking of themselves as bosses, move to thinking themselves as coaches. So a re-engineered approach to performance conversations is about thinking about yourself as coaches and not bosses. And of course, all of us on the line are either coaching people around their performance conversations, having performance conversations, or we might be coaching managers in the workplace to do this. So, if you need the data and if you need the backup of why this is so important, that's what we're offering you up front. And as I said, feel free to interact with us in the chat box. And let me show you why this is also important. Last week, as you know, if you connected in with us, we looked at the trends. So, what are the top trends we should be looking at in 2026? And the second trend that we actually highlighted last week was the need to address the trust gap. Now, what is this? This is a gap that has been measured and looked at by the Elderman Trust Barometer. So we looked at the 2025 data. It was the 25th annual trust survey. It's a massive, massive piece of research. 33 respondents, 28 countries, at a minimum of 1,150 respondents per country. And they said that, and what I like about these global reports as well, is we're always looking for the ones that give us Australian or Oceania or APAC data as well. And we like these global reports because we're a global community right now on the Coaching Cafe. And we give you the opportunity to go back into the research and check out what your country is actually saying in this regards. Well, if we just look at Australia, and please feel to do the research for your country if you're using this report in your work. Australia's overall trust index fell from 50, the index was 50 down to 49, so a dip in trust over the last year. Our country is actually in the range against a global average trust average of 56. But what that means to the global community is that only half the people trust and this is a broader trust index about do we trust our politicians, etc., etc. Now they also look at this in terms of do we trust our managers, etc. And I backed up this research with PricewaterhouseCoopers research that I found. It was very recent survey. And why we're thinking about trust is there's a lot of research that's actually saying currently when it comes to trusting my manager and my top managers, there's so much more work that we can do. So, moderately agree or strongly agree that I trust my manager and top managers. My direct manager comes out at 61% in Australians in our workforce, but my top management only 50%. So these global surveys are actually backing each other up. Overall, the Australian population feels only 50% trust in their leaders and the environment and everything that's going on. But when we look at our workplaces, top management, there's only a 50% level of trust, and with direct managers, it's only 61%. So, the reason why our performance conversations are becoming so important is because they are actually an opportunity to build trust. We also have to remember that there could be a backdrop of distrust going on as well. So, the statistic that says my manager and top management does what they say they will do is 50% for top management agreeing with that, and only 58% for direct managers. So whether my direct manager agrees. So when we think about performance conversations or what might be written in those documents, the commitments that might be made, we really have to look at this as with a background of trust. And how do we use these conversations to actually build trust? And that's the call to action that we have. We know that trust builds engagement, engagement builds motivation, motivation builds high performance, etc., etc. But as we talked about, the trend around trust is probably the most concerning one that we see at the moment. Paula, let me pause, as always, get your thoughts on this before we move into, well, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to the human-centered approach to things. So if you're undertaking performance conversations and the like, and your focus is on the system or the process that you have to use, you're going to be missing the mark on this. It's actually the value and where you build that trust is the conversation that you have with the person. And from that coaching approach, we know that it's all about getting the other person to come up with options and ideas and solutions to move forward, and then the manager supporting that as they're going through.
Yes, indeed. And we're talking about an approach that is shaping the experience. So, my big mantra at the moment is, and for 2026, I think, is how do we, as leaders, as coaches, as managers in our workplaces, shape the experience that people are having? And in particular, it's how do we help shape the positive experience of performance conversations? So, when we think, I totally agree with what you're saying there, Paula. It's not about the process, it's about shaping the human experience. Because when I think about it, we can all remember great performance conversations we've had. We can always all remember the ones that were pretty useless as well. So it's about what we can do about that. And you will be coaching managers and leaders around this. So, everybody, when we think about what we need, it is a mindset shift that we're talking about. I know everyone on the line will already be thinking about this, but it's worth highlighting what we need. We need to move from an annual event to regular conversations with a dynamic plan. We need to move away from lack of preparation, last minute prep to the team member, as Paula said, really taking responsibility and the coaching that happens to enable that. We need to move away from lack of enthusiasm, like the process or the thing or the box or the form we have to fill out, and really move to breaking down the conversations into manageable chunks, encourage communication, encourage smart goals, encourage goals to be written in a manner that is in a manner that is inspirational, in a manner that creates momentum, um, in a manner that is specific and timely and measured. Everything we talk about with SMART goals, but breaking it down so it actually creates momentum. And then, of course, we do see in the workplace unplanned discussions, rushed discussions, rescheduled discussions because something more important has come up. So, how do we use a practical coaching framework to actually address that? And remember, if trust and engagement is at the heart of that human experience, then what we do in performance conversations is really going to go a long way. And what we do in terms of a mindset shift and how we coach managers in the workplace around that mind shift will go a long way as well.
I think too the key here is around that listening piece.
Mm.
And often what I've seen is what the staff member said, or the person that the conversation is they're having with, they heard what they said, but they didn't listen hard enough to find out what else was going on in that conversation. And in that trust piece, once you've listened and you understand what that person is needing, it's then about how do you communicate with them about what is possible and how that can be implemented and what part they could play in that. So it takes it just from I heard what you said to I've listened, I've considered, and what is that path forward.
Yeah, it's a real conversation, and anyone that's on the line can hear the grow model within what you're talking about there, Paula, and also how we link those conversations and link everything we're talking about to with an individual through to the business goals or the organizational objectives or the higher goals as well. So I've even worked with a group within our organization last week and the week before where we're cascading those goals down the big key performance indicators and how it cascades down to something that individuals can actually rally behind or get behind or feel like they can achieve. And so that idea that you're talking about where we're having those conversations, allowing people to take responsibility, allowing them to write their goals with our support, great coaching questions, etc. That's all part of it, really. And as I said, we've got an enormous alumni on the line right now. You're all really great coaches. We know that. Most of you have been coach trained, by us. But I think it's worthy to be having this conversation because if you're coaching managers around their performance, going into the performance management process, or you're coaching people to set their goals for the forthcoming year, it's such a great opportunity to really dig into that mindset and the orientation that we need to be, to move forward. So we're not trying to tell you stuff that you already know. We're just really highlighting to you the reason why it's so important.
And if you really want to make it easy, that the whole moving away from the annual event to the regular conversations and having things that you're connecting in with on a regular basis, it's
Mm.
it's one of the first. If you just move that mindset from I only have to do this once a year and it's going to be a big pain and it's going to cost, it's lots of effort. If you're actually having these regular conversations, that annual, if you have an annual process, it's so much easier because you've got all the evidence when you get to that conversation. But if I take it away from the process completely, what you have is great relationships with your people. So the managers are having great conversations, great relationships. It builds trust and it moves it forward and it doesn't even feel like it's a process.
Yeah, that's a really lovely insight. Long-term listeners will remember the webinar we did, I think a couple of years ago now, which was called "I Put Myself on a Performance Plan," and it is still actually, would you believe, Paula, our highest rated or most downloaded podcast as well. And what that was about me, the boss, putting myself on a performance plan. And we were trying to debunk the myth or the feeling or the mindset that performance plans are actually a bad thing. When we think about our performance conversations, we're putting a plan in place for the forthcoming years. So absolutely, I agree with what you said around those regular conversations. The plan is dynamic. Put yourself on a plan, work that plan, update the plan, rather than just something we do at the beginning of the year and stick it in the bucket. Now, again, we know that you all know this, but it's so worthy of highlighting it with you. And then, of course, everyone's going to say, well, what do we do about it? Have you got something that we can focus on? Is there a coaching model? And the answer is yes. So here we are, everyone. This is the set of questions that we use when we're talking about performance conversations. Those of you that have done our certificate for in workplace and business coaching will also recognize this model that we use for needs analysis. So trying to understand what the needs are of the coaching conversation. So a precursor to actually implementing the coaching series, for example. So we are very flexible in the use of this model, and we do like to use it in performance conversations. And what it is it's a catalyst for conversations. So we're not suggesting that you use every single question here, but quite often managers are stuck with, well, how do we get these conversations started? Yes, you can use your GROW model, the GROW, and an extended GROW model as well to get your conversations going. But we also like to include a few extra questions that are really specific to performance conversations and needs analysis. And those questions are for those of you that can't see it. We start off with talking about what you're proud of. So, what's going well? What have you achieved? what are you particularly proud of? Such a powerful question to really dig a bit deeper under the surface and find out what are people really proud of? And how did they play to their strengths? What a lovely question to ask as well. And again, quite often we haven't had taken the time to celebrate. So what would you like to celebrate? So the first part of the model is about P for proud. Then we'll have a conversation about challenges. So, where are you experiencing challenges? What's been the impact? How did you overcome those challenges? What's still outstanding? And what strengths can you call upon? So, any of these questions are actually great to say, well, let's not only review the year, but think about where did you experience challenges last year and what can we do about it this year? So, if the challenge is still outstanding, or the person hasn't overcome them, or we need to understand more about the impact, then we can ask really great questions here. And then that can shape what actually goes into the performance conversation and shapes what goes into the actual documents you might be documenting as well. Then the conversation can turn to improvement. And here we're thinking about what are we focusing on for this year that is around continuous improvement. What would you like to change or do differently is a wonderful question. I use it all the time. And if we did that, what would be the benefits of the changes? And then, of course, you're going into the planning, the P for plan. So it's proud, challenges, improvement, and plan. And then we're thinking about the classic options and way forward in the grow model. What steps can you take to move forward? What's the plan for the next 2, 3, 6 months? That's where we start documenting. What resources do you need? How can you leverage your strengths? And then how can I support you? So we're offering this set of questions as something that you can give to people prior to the performance conversation. And as a way of using a set of high quality questions, yes, you can use any other model in your grow model as well, but finding a really high quality set of questions that open up the conversation and then actually lead to something quality being documented. So you can use some or all of these questions. Now, of course, keep the reference there so that you know that it came from open door coaching. But what I really encourage is that these are questions that the people that you're coaching can think about before the meeting and come having thought about it and reflected. And if we do that, then that conversation is going to be so much better in terms of the high quality of the conversation. And we can pretty well guarantee these questions build trust. They build trust, they build engagement, they build really strong rapport, and particularly those questions about what are you particularly proud of, because they help us take a moment to reflect about what we're proud of, the challenges we experienced, and how we overcame those. And it's such a quality conversation that we can have that builds trust and engagement. So we offer you that as a way of kickstarting the conversation. Yes, we have used these questions throughout client sites and client organizations that we've worked with over the years. We've refined them over the years as well, so you can feel free to do that as well. But we just find it such a wonderful set of questions to get yourself going. And of course, then use as the questions that you might use to re-examine the or to catch up with further conversations throughout the year as well. Paula, you've used these questions thousands of times. I'd be interested
Yes.
in your experience here as well.
Yeah, so I think particularly for managers who don't know how to have a one-on-one conversation, these are really so. In my HR world, I used to put them into a template so that people have got something and use them as questions to get you started because sometimes people just don't know where that beginning, where to start with this.
Mm.
And then you adapt them based on language that's in your organization. So there were some organizations where professional development was really important. So we added a question in there, what professional development have you done in the last month? How did that, what difference did that make to the work that you were doing? So we were linking that through. But one of the other things, I mean, we're thinking about performance conversations from an individual perspective, but I love this for team performance as well. And if you are wanting to build trust from a team with your whole team in at one time, then running through this in a team meeting really just, and if you think about the start of the year, it's a really great time to do it, which is let's start the year off and think about the things we're proud of. And often people haven't been asked that question before. So it's a really beautiful place to start. And then really thinking about as a team, how do we want to work together moving forward and what will that look like? And then what's that plan that we put in place? It also gives you a different approach to your team meetings. That's not just about data, giving people information, but really brings everyone into the conversation.
I think they're great insights, Paula. Thank you for mentioning that. Two things that I'll just reiterate there as well. One is yes, you change the questions to suit you, and you change the questions to suit the person that you're coaching as well. Uh, so that's the first thing. So make it language that the organization understands. One thing I'd say is don't swap out that word proud. It's a universal word. It's not a, strumming guitars and hugging trees and skipping through the daisies kind of word. It is actually a word that helps people dig in under the surface. And then the second, as you mentioned, the application to team and ongoing team meetings. Really, thank you for reminding about us about that as well. So, Gallup, this is from last year actually, really are encouraging people to get training around this in an effort to actually cut engagement, to cut down the level of disengagement, I think is what we need to say. So, Gallup is suggesting that we should ensure all managers receive training to cut extreme manager disengagement in half. They say that less than half of the world's managers, only 44%, say that they've received management training that they need. Teach managers effective coaching techniques. Well, of course, we know that to boost management performance, but the indicator is from 20% to 28%. Increased performance from 20% to 28%. And they say that some managers have a natural gift for inspiring and developing people, but many don't. So, how do we bring that out of people, bring out their best as well? So, we know this, but we're offering this to you so you are equipped with the stats and the numbers you need to have these conversations as well. We can increase manager well-being by 32% through ongoing management development. So the statistics suggest that when employers provide manager training, it improves managers' thriving indicators from 28 to 30%. But they also say if people have training, and this is the key thing around performance conversations, if someone at their work actively encourages their development, managers thriving increases further to 50%. So when we consider the additional influence of great managers on their teams, and we give people some training around this, use these questions. Gallup suggests it's probably one of the most effective well-being initiatives we can invest in. So training to help people develop others, and use these kind of techniques to grow and develop managers, so they can grow and develop others. That's what we're actually thinking about. So we're addressing trust, we're addressing engagement, we're addressing well-being in the workplace, and we really want to encourage you. And as we said, everyone on the line pretty well probably knows this, but we're trying to give you the data so that you can also share the reasons and the strong evidence behind it as well. So there you go, everyone. It's as always a fast and furious insight and conversation around what we can do, how we can really shift the lens on performance conversations and really start the year out with intention and focus. As always, we say if you're interested in our certificate for workplace and business coaching, our diploma of leadership coaching, executive coaching, leadership development, all of that, you can always reach out to us. As always, thank you very much, Paula, for being part of our conversation today. And we look forward to catching up with everyone at our next coaching cafe. We always say thank you so much for joining us and enjoy your coaching.